All right, let's dive into this whole world of AI personas and how they're changing how we think about market research.
Yeah,
You guys sent in a ton of stuff for this one, demos, calls, even some like pretty heated debates about AI tools in general. Should be interesting.
definitely. It feels like we're, at this tipping point.
Yeah.
How we do market research is going to look really different in the next few years. We're moving away from like the old school surveys and focus groups and towards a world where AI is giving us the insights to make decisions.
Okay, so quick recap.
Well,
You know how AI is being used to make those like virtual versions of your target audience?
right.
We call them AI personas.
Mm.
They basically simulate how real people think and behave.
Yeah.
Demographics, opinions, the whole nine yards.
Hmm.
And this is opening up some really cool possibilities.
Absolutely. One example that comes to mind is this executive consultant. He was working with a K-12 company in Brazil.
Yeah.
They created 6 different parent archetypes using AI, and then they tested marketing messages for affordable private schools, targeting each archetype very specifically. The goal was to see, which messages really resonated with each group. And what they found was fascinating, by the way.
Oh, they learn.
It was like they were suddenly able to see the needs and wants of each parent group in a way that would take in, honestly, forever and a ton of money to do with, traditional methods.
That's the thing that keeps coming up in these sources, right? Like the speed and cost advantage of AI personas, it's huge. There's this entrepreneur in one of the feedback calls. He's working on a product that makes podcasts from people's memories.
Interesting concept.
Yeah, and he was using AI personas to like test different prices and figure out who would be most likely to buy it. Imagine being able to validate your market and get pricing feedback before you even build the product. That's powerful.
No doubt. And it really minimizes risk, lets you change things quickly, which is so important, especially in today's world. One entrepreneur, actually, he said AI personas cut his research time by 75%.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a game changer, especially for startups and smaller companies.
Another source that really stood out to me was this discussion about using AI personas for a burger bun company's marketing campaign.
Oh, yeah, that one. I mean, trying to sell the same burger bun to, like, restaurants and everyday consumers at the same time, that's tricky.
Right. He was using AI personas to come up with product ideas and even test different marketing copy. He specifically talked about this whole meal hot dog bun idea he had. He used AI personas to figure out if, health-conscious parents would buy it for their kids.
So instead of spending months developing something and then hoping it sells, he could get immediate feedback, refine the messaging based on how the AI, reacted.
It's like having this round-the-clock focus group, always ready to give you feedback. Product ideas, taglines, even like jokes.
I saw someone using it to test a joke about dating in your 30s.
Really?
Yeah, it turns out humor's pretty subjective.
Oh, I can imagine.
What one group finds hilarious, another might, be offended by. Really valuable feedback when you're trying to craft the right message.
Talking about messaging, we also have this case study where they used AI personas to test a LinkedIn post. It was about managing 24 startups.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Wanted to see how it would play with a tech audience.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Some AI personas, probably the entrepreneurial ones, were impressed, inspired. Others, though, were skeptical. Like, could he really handle that
I
much?
can see that.
It just highlighted, you got to be ready to handle those objections, make your value proposition clear.
It's not just about testing ideas, though, is it? This technology can be used to generate them, too. There are tools now that let you basically create these AI personas just from descriptions.
Like, give it a basic outline and the AI fills in the rest.
Yeah, one demo showed someone building a persona for a healthcare operations director. Starts with a simple description, and the platform, it just adds details. Education, experience, even their hobbies.
Wow.
And then you can go even further, cloning personas from real-world data.
There was a discussion about someone who cloned personas from Hacker News comments.
Yeah, that one. Like capturing the essence of that whole community, their unique perspective. Then you can use those cloned personas to test product ideas and get like hyper-specific feedback.
So, okay, we've talked about how they're being used to test messages, brainstorm products, analyze reactions. But what about the actual building and refining of these AI personas? Where do you even start?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
There are a few different approaches, each with its own, pluses and minuses. Some platforms you start from scratch, demographics, psychographics, the whole deal. Others use pre-built templates or let you copy existing ones.
Let's dig into that more.
Mm.
That's where the real magic happens.
Yeah.
That's where we'll pick up in part 2.
So welcome back to our deep dive. We left off talking about how to actually, build these AI personas. But one thing to remember as we get into this, it's not as simple as it might sound.
Right, right. Not like you just plug in some numbers and boom, you've got a perfect representation.
Exactly. It's not just demographics. The more detail, the more nuance you build in, the better, the more accurate your results are going to be. And how you ask them questions makes a difference too, of course.
Which brings us back to those different approaches.
Yeah. Some platforms, you're starting from nothing. You input age, location, job, all that basic stuff. Then you add in those psychographic details, their interests, their values, even like personality traits. And the more you give it, the more well-rounded that persona becomes.
It's almost like writing a character for a book or a movie. You're building a whole history, motivations, even their flaws.
That's a great way to put it. You want it to feel as real as possible so that when you ask it something, the answer feels authentic, gives you real insight.
We talked about cloning personas before. That seems more like data-driven.
It is. Imagine taking real data, like reviews, comments, interview transcripts even, and from that, you create an AI that's basically a mirror of that data, like a digital twin of your target audience, ready to give you feedback whenever you need it.
That Hacker News example was pretty wild. Being able to tap into that community, their whole vibe, and get feedback that's specific to them. Amazing.
One of the more interesting things I've seen is using something called world values data to make AI personas even better. It basically captures like global trends and what people believe, how they live. So when you build that into a persona, it's not just accurate demographically, but it reflects like cultural nuances too.
That's huge, especially for global businesses, right?
Yeah.
Could help avoid some of those cultural missteps that sometimes happen.
Definitely. Understanding those subtle differences in what people value, what they expect, it can make or break a campaign. So these AI personas with that extra layer of cultural sensitivity, they can be really, really valuable.
So we've covered how important it is to build detailed personas. But then what about the questions we ask them? How do we get the most useful feedback?
Well, that's where prompting comes in. It's like talking to a real person, how you phrase a question, it matters. One developer I talked to, he was using something called Socratic questioning with his AI personas.
Socratic questioning.
Yeah. Instead of asking yes or no questions, you ask a series of questions that kind of guide the persona to a deeper understanding.
So how would that work in practice?
Say you're testing a new health and wellness app. Instead of asking, would you use this, which might get you a very surface level response, you could ask, what are your biggest struggles with staying healthy? What kind of support would help you the most? What features in an app would keep you engaged? That kind of thing.
Oh, I see. So you're getting at their motivations, their needs.
Yeah.
That's really clever.
It is, and you get much richer feedback that way. And that's valuable for so many things, not just product development, but marketing, even customer service.
Yeah.
You're basically getting inside the mind of your target customer.
But, and this is a big but, there are still simulations, right? No matter how much we talk about how amazing this tech is, how do we know that the feedback they're giving us is actually, reliable? That it represents real people?
That's the million-dollar question, and it brings us to the limitations and, the need to double-check to validate things.
Right.
No matter how good they get, these personas are still digital versions of human behavior. They can't completely capture all the complexity, the unpredictability of how real people act.
So not a magic solution. We can't just blindly trust what they tell us.
Exactly. Think of them as powerful tools, but for exploring, for coming up with ideas. It's crucial to validate what they tell you with data from the real world.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we check if what they're saying actually holds up?
There are a few ways. You can do surveys, focus groups, A/B testing with real users even. The key is to use multiple approaches. If the AI persona insights are backed up by what you see in the real world, then you're probably on the right track.
So it's like using AI personas as that first step. You explore, you narrow things down before you invest in those more expensive, time-consuming research methods.
Precisely. Fail fast. Learn quickly. Keep refining your ideas until you have something solid.
We've talked about building detailed personas, asking the right questions, validating what they tell us. What else should we keep in mind as this whole world of AI-powered market research keeps changing?
Well, we can't forget that this is all still evolving. What we're seeing now, it's just the beginning.
Which is exciting, right? But also kind of scary. How do we make sure we're using it responsibly, ethically? I mean, AI is powerful, and we've seen how that can go wrong.
That's a conversation we need to have, and it's a perfect segue into the final part of our deep dive. We'll be looking at the future of AI personas, the good, the bad, and the ethical questions we absolutely need to be asking.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about how these AI personas work, but now I want to zoom out a bit. What if this stuff becomes totally mainstream? What if everyone's using them? What does that world look like?
Yeah, the sources you sent, they paint some pretty interesting pictures.
Like that one entrepreneur, he was saying AI personas could revolutionize education. Totally personalized learning, based on each kid's needs and how they learn best. Sounds almost too good to be true.
Ambitious, sure, but not impossible. Imagine, imagine AI tutors that can figure out what a student's good at, what they struggle with. They could change the pace, adjust the content to make it, more engaging, more relevant. That could have a huge impact on education.
And it goes beyond just kids, right? One developer was talking about using them to simulate patient feedback on new treatments. Could that speed up how we develop drugs or even personalized healthcare?
Oh, the possibilities there are huge. Imagine testing new drugs or therapies, figuring out potential side effects, even predicting how individual patients might react based on, their genes and lifestyle.
Then there's finance, right?
Yeah.
AI personas being used to fine-tune financial equity research, better investment strategies, a deeper understanding of what's happening in the markets. It's almost like, well, maybe not a crystal ball, but
Well, right. Not predicting the future exactly, but AI personas can definitely help investors make smarter choices. You can simulate different scenarios, test strategies. It's all about managing risk, making the most of your investments.
and we even saw a demo of AI personas being used in politics, testing how effective different messages are with different groups of voters. I mean, could that be the future of campaigns? Or even a way to see what the public really thinks about certain issues?
It's powerful, that's for sure. Being able to tailor your message so it resonates with specific groups, that's already happening to some extent. But AI personas could take it to a whole new level. Campaign managers could test different messages, figure out what language is most persuasive, even predict how different voters might react to policies.
But here's the thing. As this tech gets more powerful, we can't ignore the ethical side of it. AI can be used for good, but also for bad. How do we make sure we're using AI personas the right way?
That's the big question, right? And we have to keep asking it as this tech evolves. One of the biggest things is transparency. We need to know how these personas are made, what data they're using, how their, outputs are being used to make decisions.
And it's not just about being transparent, it's about accountability. Who's responsible if an AI persona gives biased or discriminatory results? Those are tough questions.
Absolutely. We also have to think about the impact on jobs. If these AI personas get good enough, could they replace some of the people who do market research now?
That's a real concern. We need to be thinking about that now.
But I think the goal should be to find ways for humans and AI to work together. Let the AI handle the data, the analysis, and then free up human researchers to focus on the strategy, the creative problem solving, the empathy. Those are things that AI it can't replicate.
We've covered so much in this deep dive, from the nuts and bolts of how AI personas work to their potential to change everything from how we learn to how we invest to, well, even healthcare and politics.
And this is really just the beginning. As this technology keeps developing, we have to stay informed, keep asking those critical questions, and have open and honest discussions about what it all means.
That's a great point. AI personas, they're not science fiction anymore. They're here.
Yeah.
And they have the potential to change, well, pretty much everything.
And like with any powerful tool, it's up to us to use it wisely, ethically, to make sure AI is helping us, not the other way around.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been quite a journey.
My pleasure.
Rally removes the barriers between your questions and your answers. All the wisdom, none of the scars.